This started, as Dorothy had talked about, from an innocent little panel that AAAS put on, Dorothy and Trey, that was looking at education, was looking at making and a lot of innovation in education. And at the end of this panel where I was, the panel that I was on, I said to Dorothy and Trey, it would be really cool if all the federal agencies put together a maker fair, a mini maker fair, and showed off the kinds of making that's happening inside those agencies. So that was the seed of a bad idea back in August. And the bad idea spread because one of the issues that we were addressing on the panel was trying to broaden access. And the story that I was telling was a little bit of my story, which was that, and I did a TEDx talk about this, but when I was in 3rd grade, I wanted to be an astronaut. And this was actually only months before Guy Bluford was launched into space as the first black astronaut. And I wrote a book about wanting to go to Mars and all this stuff that was in my head. And a teacher innocently said to me, well, black people aren't astronauts. And factually, yes, she was correct. But what that could have done to a 3rd grader was divert me from the path that I continued to follow. And the reason it didn't is because my parents were very motivated, very educationally focused. My grandparents, actually my parents were makers, my grandparents were makers. They made everything. One of my grandfathers made his own house that my mom and her siblings grew up in. So that sort of influence was what it took. When I think about my inspiration, my heroes as makers when I was growing up, I'd have to say my parents and my grandparents. That was the driving force for me that got me past that diversion point. But for so many other kids, that doesn't exist. And so I can't tell that story without asking the question that we all know the answer to, which is, why is this important? And it's unfortunate that Doug took off already, because he said something at lunch which captures the value of why we're here today, which is that innovation happens at intersections. And making is important as an activity, an engaging activity to increase our success as educators. But making also has a profound impact on our society in the engagement of youth, in the engagement of adults in the technology around us. And I think beyond that, if we look at what we as a group here are here for today, the big picture of making activities in the country is really to push innovation forward, educational innovation forward, innovation as an economy, and innovation as individuals. When I sit down and make something, some of that's fun, and some of that is play. But some of that is just an expression of my creativity, of who I am. And I think that as I've met makers through all of the maker fairs, and as Dale says, Make Magazine and maker fairs are all about connecting with community. And as I've connected with that community, what I've found is that self-expression is such a powerful, powerful mode of activity in making activities in the making community. When that translates to innovation, what we see is entrepreneurship. And if you go to the next slide, so the reason that I put Doug's quote up there is because the next thing he said on top of innovation happens at intersections, well, we all know that innovation happens at the intersections of disciplines. But I think something that we forget is the value of innovation at the intersections of cultures and how this country was built on that collision of cultures. You might call it a melting pot, which implies that it was all boiled together smoothly, but the civil rights era doesn't reflect on the melting pot, it reflects on a collision. And a lot of things that were bad happened at that collision, but a lot of things that were good and transformational. We learn a lot about ourselves as a people. And those cultural forces bring together a lot of new ideas. And we also see something that's really interesting, which is that if you analyze the entrepreneurial activities of recent immigrants, what you see is that people who are willing to leave their country and come to America to create a better life for themselves and their families, they are hardworking, they're devoted entrepreneurs, and, well, a lot of times businesses fail, and their businesses fail. And making and entrepreneurship go hand in hand because we embrace the kinds of experimentation that it takes to learn about what will work and how things work. So what I see is really powerful for all of us, and the challenge that I want all of us to leave here today with, if you go to the next slide. This is something that I just took away from today, which is the value of decision making. Engineering design is about making decisions. It's about making better decisions. It's about making thoughtful decisions and intuitive decisions. And making helps build those intuitions and the thoughtfulness and the reflectiveness. And it also helps build a skill set with tools that transform the environment around us and are empowering tools. So all of this together creates opportunities for education, creates opportunities for innovation, creates opportunities for entrepreneurship, creates opportunities for jobs, creates opportunities for engagement with community. If you go to my last slide, the next slide, sorry. So that challenge is, how do we embrace the diversity which we so critically need in the world of innovation, in the world of startups, and fundamentally in the world of making. I kind of on a whim and somewhat motivated by Brian Jepson, I'll throw this back at you, Brian. Go one slide back, sorry. I started this little website called blackmakers.com, and as I was going to maker fairs, I just started collecting profiles of all of the black makers that I met, because there were few at first, and the number has been increasing, which is a delight to see, but it's still nowhere reflective of the broader community. And I think some criticism has been leveled at Make for this, but I just want to point out that when I graduated from college, I was the only graduate in my class to get a degree in engineering who was non-white or non-Asian. And so what we see in the community is a reflection of what we see in our engineering schools, and it's a reflection of what we see in our high school programs, and even earlier than that. And that's something that all of us here today must change, because 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, if we want to be the most innovative country in the world, if we want to have the highest quality of living, if we want to be surrounded by neighbors who are educated, who are motivated, who are intelligent, we have to embrace diversity across education, and I think making is one of the most powerful, one of the most accessible methods to do that. So I've had a long 9 months of putting all this stuff together with Dorothy and Trey, and a large team of AAAS fellows. So I want to close, I don't want to linger because I'm about to fall asleep on my feet, but I want to close by just thanking everybody involved. I want to thank our sponsors, not just of today, but of yesterday. So we had a great collaboration with Lego, with Kiva, with Intel. We have Joey here. I'm so impressed that you and Julie flew out. I'm so excited that we got Dale. I'm actually, when Sherry Lassiter got the email about this event, she said, well, I'm going to China, but I will change my flight so I can make it back to be on to run this panel. And that's the kind of excitement and dedication that we see to moving this cause and leveraging what we see as just an incredibly powerful force and a very, very exciting movement. And I just particularly want to thank everybody here, because the reason you're here is that you care and that you're trying to make a difference, and I will say you will make a difference. We will make sure that we all make a difference. And that's what this is really all about. So if you hit the last slide, I'm just going to close by, like I said, saying thank you to everybody. I hope you've had a great, great time today and yesterday, and I think we've really succeeded. I tweeted about this when Daryl was challenging. It wasn't so much a challenge. It was just a really. I'm trying to create a little excitement and tension and some drama, but this was really an interagency event. I mean, we had representatives from most agencies yesterday and today, and even the White House was gracious enough to give their input and put the resources behind both days. And obviously the White House is having the White House Maker Faire, but the fact that they would come to our little education event here and provide input, provide time, that's important, and that shouldn't be overlooked. And that's a statement, not necessarily as much to the White House, but that's a statement to all of us that we matter and that this matters. So go out, do things that matter, engage people at the agencies, because this is a grassroots movement, but the grassroots movement certainly can benefit from people knowing that we exist and people being able to engage, bring more people into it, and just spread the word, and also not get in the way. That's an incredibly powerful thing when people in the agencies can say, yeah, you know what, everything here is fine, just let it do what it needs to do. And sometimes it needs a little help. The federal support for Making Panel really gave us some good ideas about how we can help accelerate the movement and make sure that we reach everybody at need. So I'm going to close again by saying thank you. I hope you've all had a great time, and I hope the conversation continues. I told Eddie Gonzalez that we'll be back next year, so he better be ready. We're going to make sure that we keep this going until we reach every kid in America and make this country even better. So thank all of you.